So I can only speak for how it was or how it is here at IU in terms of the ID camps. Ohio State was similar. I didn't do a percentage, so I'm not sure. I'm sure it was lower than 40, though. My guess Ohio State would probably be 15 to 20 if I had to guess off the top of my head percent. But Ohio State's coach came from the IU soccer tree, so he kind of follows the same methodology where we value ID camps. So it just kind of depends on each coach and where they find value in their recruiting process. But for us, ID camps is definitely a great recruiting tool for us. And it's a great way for us to find guys that can fill the roster. And sometimes those are the most important players, that guy that can work hard for 4 years, that can put their head down and work hard, and even if they're not getting game minutes, they can drive that first team to be better. We got 5 or 6 guys on our roster that you'll never see in any match analysis, any reports you'll never see, but they drive this program forward with their work they do at training. And we pride ourselves in having our second team very competitive with our first team, so that way when we get into tournaments like our final run last year, we're playing teams like Marshall, we're playing teams like Pitt, we're playing teams like Syracuse. It's not that big of a jump from where we compete with our own second team every day in training. So having those supplemental guys on the roster is absolutely massive for us, and I wish they could get some more credit in some situations because of how important they are to the program. But the guys know how valuable they are, which is good. So
let me ask you, at an ID camp, what are you guys looking for in a player?
For an ID camp, so we're looking. First off, there's a lot of different prongs of what we look for in a recruit, but first off, it's how they perform on the field, how they interact with their teammates, how they compete with their teammates, their personality. Are they a leader? Do they have an edge to them where that guy just wants to win? Those are kind of things. Those are kind of characteristics we really look for. And then obviously personality is huge, and that falls into leadership and all that stuff. But the personality of the player is massive. Coming to a program like IU, a lot of the guys that we recruit were the top player on their team previously. So it's important that we get to know these kids before we bring them in, because we need to know how they will handle maybe not playing for a year or two, and maybe that's a new situation for them. So that's why we love the ID camp, because it gets us a chance to really know that player versus just watching them for 45 minutes. So we look for the ability, attacking players. We want 1v1 ability to get around the edge and get service into the box. And then our 9s and 10s, we want creative guys, good combinations, and guys that for us, we really high press. So we want our 9s and 10s being mobile and being able to move so that they can press. And we rotate our front 4 so we can keep our press really high. One thing that we're looking for, and that's where I know I talked to you a little bit about trying to get back to California, but one thing we felt we were missing with our team last year was just maybe 1 or 2 more guys with that high-level soccer IQ. And that just comes from being a student of the game, playing all growing up, watching games on TV, all that kind of thing plays into that. But for us, we call it joysticking. And we felt like maybe we could have 1 more player out of our 11 that could joystick and help make the other players around them better. So by joysticking, I just mean if you're in the middle of midfield, you're talking to your wide midfielder, right midfielder, hey, tuck inside, I need you here. Or in transition, pop into this pocket, I want to find you there. It's on based on what they're doing, so we need to find you there in transition. Just guys like that can be kind of coaches on the field. Is so big.
That high soccer IQ, huh?
Yeah.
Is that what
so
you
we
mean
do
by
a
that?
lot of film work to try to raise the level of the high soccer IQ. But that is one thing specifically that we were looking for after last season, was bringing a guy in that had an elite level soccer IQ coming in, and then we can build on that to get it even higher. But that was kind of one of the takeaways from last season, because having those field generals, we like to call them, out there get the coaches' points across and get us playing the way that we want to play. So there's a lot of different things. I'd say each position we kind of look for some different things. But in general, the leadership quality, the ability on the ball, the defensive work rate is huge for us, because we pride ourselves in our defensive transition. So we typically don't recruit players. If we notice they give the ball away and then they're just watching and waiting for their teammate to win it so then they can attack again, those are typically players that we don't want. We don't typically recruit. We go after the player that loses the ball, and then it's on him. It's his ownership to go and win that ball back for his team. And we talk about our repress all the time. That starts with the guy that loses the ball. So that's one thing specifically that we really look for. And then just kind of getting into some red flags. I know we don't like to talk about red flags, but I think it is important for players to know that coaches are always watching at these showcases, how you interact with the referee, how you interact with your coach, how you interact with your own teammates. Even if the coach isn't present, I can promise you they are calling your club coach and they are doing their homework. We'll call 3 or 4 people before we ever recruit on campus in their close circle to get an idea of how they are as a person. So it's important that when you guys, even if you don't think you're being watched, it's important to pride yourself on being a leader and being a good teammate, because I'd say that's the quickest red flag you can get and put yourself out of the picture.
For sure, totally, man. You don't want to have to worry about that. You just, stay focused, be humble, work hard, and just be a good person, right?
For sure.
Let me ask you, what should players be doing prior to high school? What do you think they should be doing? Nowadays a lot of kids are like, they're doing a lot of different stuff, like at 10, 11, 12 years old, they're doing sports performance stuff, lifting weights, pulling parachutes, pushing sleds. But, I get it. They're trying to build their muscle and, their different muscle groups and get stronger because they need to be able to have that physical aspect, be strong and fast, the American way. But what do you think they should be doing?
For me, under the age of 12, and for me, the main focus when I was a kid, and even now when I'm coaching kids younger than that age group, and it kind of stems from Holland and their methodology. Before I chatted with the PSV coach, Pepijn Linders. He's actually the assistant coach at Liverpool now, but he was the one when I was 10 years old. He came over to a camp in San Francisco, and he kind of talked to us about Holland's methodology then, and that stuck with me ever since I've been 10 years old. But he basically said that over there, he was the technical director at PSV back in whatever it was, 2005. And those guys at PSV, which at the time, Holland was in the World Cup final, what was that, 2010? So at the time, Holland was producing some of the best players in the world, and they only focused on technique up until the age of 12.
Are you talking Holland like Erling Haaland's dad?
No. Holland, sorry, Netherlands.
Oh,
Netherlands.
Okay.
Yeah. I still am calling it Holland like the total football days, but the Netherlands. So it's PSV. He was the technical director at PSV. So the Netherlands, all those guys really focus on just skill work, ball work, technique, up until the age of 12, and then once they hit 12 to 14, that's when they start to layer on the tactics.
Wow.
But for me, there's no, and this is just personal opinion, but I don't see as much value in working on the build-up and talking tactics before the boys can pass. I think you got to get the fundamentals down. You got to get the skill work, the dribbling, the passing, the awareness, all of that stuff down first, and then you can start to talk tactics and how you kind of want to play. That's kind of my personal idea. That was my own pathway myself. But
okay. I wonder if that's
a different way.
Yeah, I wonder if that's the reason why, a lot of the Netherlands players are all just so silky,
Yeah.
Like one of the most recent guys, Cody Gakpo, that guy's so silk. Him, Frankie de Jong, all those guys, they're so smooth, man. I wonder if it's because of that system that you're talking about, them teaching the skills like at a younger age.
Yeah, no, I know PSV did that specifically, and I'd imagine that Ajax and Feyenoord and these other big clubs in Holland follow that same methodology. But it is definitely interesting, and then it was interesting kind of to see where the Netherlands were as an international group, and they were competing in World Cup finals and all that stuff. But yeah, it's not a surprise that this guy. He went from PSV technical director, went to FC Porto, and then he joined Jurgen Klopp's staff at Liverpool. So this guy doesn't mess around with what he's saying, and that stuck with me since I was 10. It kind of followed suit with my dad's methodology when he was developing players over the last 25 years, and that's what I went with myself and my brothers as well. That's kind of how we set our basis. I didn't lift the weight until I was in 8th grade. I think maybe even freshman year. I didn't focus on any kind of performance training. And if I could go back, I might get into some of that stuff a little bit earlier. But definitely in terms of the bulk load, under age 12, I think the ball's got to be involved. The more the ball can be involved, the better.
Okay. Great, man. Great answer. So tell me a little bit about yourself. Where did you play growing up?
So I played at Plus United there for many years, and then I ended up my last 2 or 3 seasons I ended up playing with the Placer Blues. The CDA Academy was in the picture at the time, but I decided for my development I was going to stay. We had a great team that year with the Blues, so we decided to kind of stay together and played that way, and I started my recruiting process as a club player. So I hear all the time with it said, oh, if you're not in an academy, it's so tough, you're not going to get college exposure. Yeah, you might not have as much college exposure at your disposal. You just got to look for it, though. I hunted for it. I went to these ID camps. I was emailing coaches on my own. So I developed my own college exposure, knowing that I wasn't in an academy environment. But when I hear these coaches talking about how players have to be in academy environments, that's the only way to get this exposure. It's just not true. There's so many different ways that you can get college exposure through your club team, through your own personal stuff like ID camps or emailing coaches, having conversations. Just the biggest thing is being proactive. You're selling yourself. So the harder you work at it, the more it's just like any sales situation. The harder you work at it, the more you can continue to develop your skills, the better product you'll have to sell. But the actual process of selling is important. You got to be emailing these college coaches that you're interested in. They're not just going to give you a call. It might happen, and that would be great, but you can't expect that. You got to go and kind of create your own luck, if that makes any sense.
What about like highlight reels and like videos and like YouTubes and Instagram accounts? Does all that matter at all, or is that just for?
Yeah, so I actually manage the IU Men's Soccer email. So we get all kinds of emails. So the email is an interesting one because the highlight videos are very important. It gives us an idea of if this is the right fit right off the bat. I'd say the perfect range for a highlight video would be about 5 minutes, and put all your best stuff in the beginning, because it's like a movie. If you're watching a movie and the first 10 minutes isn't great, you might not watch the rest of it. So make sure you're putting in your best stuff in the beginning. And then another thing is, like, defenders, sometimes they'll have their first 20 clips or them attacking and doing all this different stuff. Make sure you're putting clips together on your highlight video that are applicable to your position. It's great as outside backs if you're scoring all these goals. That's great stuff, but don't have that be your entire video, because you're a left back. We also want to see how you can defend, how you track runners, how you split space. All this different stuff that we're looking for is important. So the amount of times I see outside backs only giving me attacking clips, it's pretty crazy. So I think just really taking a second and reflecting on your strengths and what you want to portray to these coaches, and how you kind of think you fit a different niche it's always important. Differentiation is huge. So how you can differentiate yourself is massive. So yeah, highlight videos are definitely great. Full game films, I'd say that's the first step in the process. We get a highlight video. If I like the highlight video, I ask for a full game, and then we kind of get the ball rolling from there. I'll start calling coaches, and we'll start moving in that direction. But with the email, it is important to make sure you get the right stuff on there, because sometimes I'll get an email and the grad year is not in there, or a reference of a coach that I can call isn't in there, or they leave out their position. Any information that you leave out that is important just makes the coach go and do more work. Now here at IU, our staff goes and does that due diligence on our own, but a lot of coaches might just move on to the next guy because it's not easily accessible. So when you're sending those emails, it's really important to have the grad year, because like I said, even if you're the perfect player for what a coach would want, if it's not, let's say they need that attacking midfielder in 2024 and you're 25, we're looking for an attacking midfielder in 24, so 25 we actually don't even have a role for an attacking midfielder, no matter how good he is, and usually if they're that good, we'll make a role. But that situation can happen. So grad year is really important. Getting a highlight video, like you said, with all the good stuff in front is huge. Putting your club team down is great, because that's a quick search, see how the level is of the team. And then listing references of coaches that the college coach can call is also important. And they'll go and get their own references as well, I'm sure. We typically call a couple references from the kid, and then we typically find our own references through our network to get an idea of how these kids are. But it is definitely, emails are a great way to get in front of, or to get your video and your play in front of these coaches. The biggest thing is not to get discouraged. If you're not getting a reply, just keep sending the email. Don't send it every day, but once a month, or when you have a showcase, send the email over, and the coaches will see. Like, I start to recognize different guys that have reached out, and it just shows their interest, and we like that, So it is important not to get discouraged. Just to give you an idea, like, I'll get, if it's before a showcase, I think probably one week I was getting 100 emails a day at the men's soccer for IU, which that's high because it's IU, but it ended up working out where there's a showcase in Indy. There's a showcase in.
It's the Hoosiers, man. It's the most successful collegiate school in the history of the sport. Come on.
Yeah, no, it can definitely get crazy, but that was also a unique situation because there was a showcase in St. Louis, a showcase in Indy, and a showcase in Nashville. So there was 3 different points that people were hitting us on about different showcases. So that's one thing that I wanted to make sure I hit on with this is the timing of the email. If you're going to email me one day before the showcase, I can promise you I probably have 200 other emails in my inbox. But if you were to send it 2 weeks prior, maybe I'm only getting 30 emails a day at that time. So that's where the timing of that email, when we talk about it, kind of goes into the theme of differentiation. Don't put yourself with the group of 200, because it's much harder to differentiate. Maybe send that email a week earlier and be proactive. And then in my head, I'm like, wow, I'm getting reached out to now. This is the first email I've gotten about this showcase. So this kid's all over it. He plans ahead. He's proactive. He's engaging with me, So those are kind of things that can help get that initial response back quicker. But like I said, if you don't get that initial response, don't get discouraged. It's hard to reply. Some of these top schools, it is tough to get all of these emails back. So just keep plugging away and keep selling yourself, and just be realistic with who you're hitting up. If it's a top 10 school in the country and you're not starting for your club team, we might want to regroup and think about a different school that would make more sense for us. So being realistic with that process is important, because if you're unrealistic with the process, you're just losing time. So making sure that you're realistic and the schools that you're going for are realistic options that you could pursue. And if they aren't, then maybe just recalibrate and go from there. So that's kind of my gist of the whole recruiting process. I know there's a lot going on there, going from one point to another point, but I think that's kind of the bulk of my recommendations. Knowing coming from this through this process as a player and now as a coach, I see it from a different light. I think it is important to get this information out to the youth because a lot of them aren't aware of these kind of things. And another thing that a lot of youth aren't aware of is, like, for me right now, I can only email back a generic response if a 2025 emails me.
What do you mean? What do you mean by that?
Until June, like, I can't get specific. I can, like, basically say thanks for reaching out and invite them to camp. But I can't do anything specific with the grad year 2025 until June 15th.
So you could only respond, thanks for the email, I'll see you at camp. Yep.
And so kids think that, oh, they're not interested. And it's like, no, NCAA, that's the only reply that we can give, And then I can go and call the club coach and talk, hey, we have some interest, and go through the club coach. But I can't reach out to the parents or that kid until June 15th of their junior year.
Oh, so you can make contact with the coach?
You can make contact with the coach, yes.
Okay, and then that's the coach's responsibility to reach out to the family and say, hey, Tanner and IU out there, the Hoosiers are looking at you. They're interested in you. And there's no issues with that.
No, but let's say if the kid was like, oh, that's great, I'm going to go email Tanner, then that's where all of a sudden I send back a generic response because that's all I can do. And then I might text the coach, hey, I got the email from him. We're definitely interested. NCAA rules, that's all I can say.
Okay.
So that's kind of how it works with that process. So, yeah, there is freshmen and sophomores that are getting offers, but those are going, if they're following the rules, those are going through club coaches.
Do you think a freshman should be committing in freshman year? Or, what if it's like an opportunity, like, say, for instance, like for Nano, say for my son, let's just fast forward, and he's like a freshman in high school, and he gets this awesome offer at Indiana because they want a little silky lad out there, and it's his freshman year. He hasn't even looked at other schools. Is that something that, like, we should, like, hop on? Because it's like, what if we don't get this offer again? What if they find another guy that's like that's silky like that, or what? Like, what do you how do you deal with that?
Yeah, I think with those offers early, like, it just depends on how much homework you've had a chance to do. Like for me, my dad played at Indiana, my cousin played at Indiana, and so I always wanted to go to Indiana. So once that offer came, I had done my homework. I had checked 8th grade freshman year. I had checked out some other schools in California, and I knew that was where I wanted to be. So I committed earlier than most. But I would recommend, and this sounds like I'm speaking out of two sides of my mouth because I committed early, but I would recommend being patient with the process. It's hard to do all your homework by that freshman year. And for me, I had family ties to IU. The program was something I had watched growing up, so that was why I was ready to jump on it. But that is a very unique situation. And I think if you're committing freshman, sophomore year, you're closing the door on some potential opportunities that'll open junior, senior year. So if you're ready and you feel ready that this school is the best spot in the country for you, then I would say you could think about committing, but that is a very tough thing to be sure of because you have to think about how much things change over 4 years. Maybe the coaching staff is different 4 years once you actually get on campus. Maybe the style of play, maybe they change their style of play. You're a center back, they're playing 3 in the back now. Maybe you only have one spot to fight for, so there's just so many different things that can change over the course of 4 years that unless you're totally sure, I would say continue to do your homework, continue to go look at schools, and continue to talk to coaches, because the more coaches you talk to, the better you'll get with that conversation. And it's just practice. My first my first recruiting call I still remember was with College of Charleston, and I remember I didn't know what to say. I didn't know how to go about it. My dad was advising me, but I felt like the call went terribly, But sometimes you just gotta get on the phone, and you might fail the first time, but it's not the end of the world. Just continue to practice it, just like anything with soccer, with the ball, or anything in life. Really, just you'll get better with practice. So don't get too caught up on, I know you work really hard to get these phone calls with the college coaches, but just know we're just regular people, and we're happy people that want to have a great conversation with you. So there's no need to feel super nervous going into the conversation. We're here to help you. And I speak for college coaches in that sense, and some maybe I shouldn't be speaking for, but in general, in this industry, the coaches that I've met, they are looking out for you. So there's no need to be nervous. They obviously have an agenda. They need to check some boxes with their roster and all that stuff. But they're not gonna bite over the phone, So that's just one thing to keep in mind.
All right, so here I got a couple questions for you before we take off, because I know you got a busy day, and we kind of went over the time limit that you allotted me. So, who is your biggest role model?
For me, I would say biggest role model is my dad or Coach Yeagley, I would say, especially as I jumped into coaching. I talk to my dad every day about stuff. I'll call him after training and get his thoughts, and we'll just talk soccer all the time. So you're talking about GT, right? Greg Thompson, yeah,
former
GT.
U.S. Olympian, baby. Freaking IU player. Didn't he? I feel like I watched a video last year, or maybe it was during the pandemic, of Jerry Yeagley and like his coaching career, and he was talking about coaching Greg, and it was a championship game, I think. Did your dad score a penalty or a free kick or something like that?
Yeah, the game-winning free kick in '82. He actually had 2 goals that game in the championship against Duke. So that's kind of why when I said I was set on Indiana, that's part of it. Was my dad helped win the first national championship for them. 1982 was the first of 8, and now we're shooting for that 9th one. Like I said, we've been close the last 5 years, but we just got to put that cherry on top.
Yeah, it's getting there, man. It's getting there. Okay, so one more question. Your favorite MLS team?
For me, it's the Earthquakes. Tommy's playing out there with the Quakes, so I follow them pretty closely. And actually, one of our players last year just got drafted. Daniel Muni was 10th overall in the draft from IU to San Jose. So it's just even more reason to watch and support San Jose. But yeah, Earthquakes.
Do him and Tommy hang out?
Yeah. They just started preseason, but yeah, they had known each other before, so it's perfect for him as a rookie to kind of know somebody in the locker room. It's been great for him.
That's awesome, man. Sweet,
so, yeah,
dude.
Quakes,
let's go. 74.
Let's go. Yeah, I still remember going to some of those games. Tommy wanted to be Tommy was in the Ultras when we were 12, 13 years old.
No way.
We go down to Quakes games. He's trying to bounce around with the Ultras. I'm trying to watch the game,
Yeah, that's awesome. They used to play at Kazar, right? Like the little small.
Yeah.
That field was so cool.
They played some Open Cup games and stuff there too, and then they ended up moving to Buckshaw, Santa Clara.
Okay. Yeah, I haven't been to Buckshaw yet, but I hear it's amazing.
Yeah, it's a nice little stadium, and it got the job done. They could kind of fill out the stadium. When they were playing there, MLS attendance wasn't quite as where it is now, so it's great for them to kind of fill out the stadium. And the Quakes were really good back then, so I'm excited. The first tough game, the first one with Almada.
Dude, Almada, in stoppage time, man. Who is that? Who is that guy?
He's world class. He won the World Cup with Argentina. He's a freaking different level.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was a tough pill to swallow on the road. Lucci, first game as head coach in MLS, and he was so close to a huge road win against a great team. But sometimes that ball just doesn't bounce the way you want it to bounce.
Oh, man. It had that backspin on it, so it was going in off that crossbar. Oh, man. Sweet, dude. Well, I appreciate your time. I really do. And I'm sure this is going to be heard by a lot of young, aspiring soccer players who want to play at that top level, and especially for one of the best, or I shouldn't say one of the best, the best, even though, you guys came up short last year, just with your guys' track record. You guys have it dialed in, man. So
I appreciate that. Well, let's build that Sacramento pipeline. Let's get some more. We got 4 or 5 California guys on our roster right now. I'm not sure what are
the dates on that thing again? I know you sent it to me, but I just wanted to say
camp?
Yeah.
It's going to be June 15th and June 16th. It'll be 3 coaches, the head coach at IU, Christian Lamelli is the assistant, and I will be heading out to Davis, and then head coach Sac State, Mike Lindenberger, head coach of UC Davis, Dwayne Schaefer, and head coach of San Francisco, Chris Brown, will be there. They'll be coaching the teams, running some training sessions, and then coaching the 11v11 games. And then I forgot Trevor Schwartz, who's a Sacramento guy actually as well. He played with me at Indiana, current assistant at UNLV. So that's our staff that we have coming out. But
is Yeagley going to make it? Is Yeagley going to make it?
Yeah, he will. Yeagley will be out there as well for both days. So it should be a great couple days there. When we're looking for that high soccer IQ, I told Coach Yeagley there's no better place to find it than California.
There we go.
When you're looking for an attacking player, there's a lot of good attacking players out there in California. So
sweet, man. Well, I appreciate you. Appreciate your time. I hope the best for you this season. Keep it going, and I'll look forward to seeing you this winter, or actually out in Davis in the summer, but then after that, this winter, if you're going to be back out here in California.
For sure.
For the annual fun stuff.
For sure, I will be. Well, it's fun seeing everything you're doing out there, Mo, with Mad Skills Labs. Keep up the great work, and we will chat here, I'm sure, over the next few months.
Thanks, man. Thanks, Tanner.
Yep, have a good one.
You too, brother.
Recording stopped.
And that was Tanner Thompson, assistant coach, Indiana University Hoosiers. Indiana has more College Cup appearances, wins, and a higher win percentage than any other school in D1 soccer. Once again, the Hoosiers are the most successful collegiate program in the history of the sport. 8 NCAA Division I championships, best in the Big Ten, an all-time D1 record of 544 wins. Outstanding. Incredible.